Hello, all. This is Dr. Dave Maslach. I'm a professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship. I created a really cool sharing economy proofreading platform where I think you should be able to get all of the feedback skills and just pure wonder that you should be able to get, that you should desire to be able to become a prolific scholar and writer along the way. So in this particular video, I really wanted to talk about your small business and startup strategy. And I really want to focus on understanding your holistic strategy, understanding the sort of your strategy as a whole and what you can actually do with your strategy as a whole. And I'm going to get into sort of recommendations on how to actually do that, as well as why I actually started thinking about this. So recently I teach an undergraduate class in strategy. It's a really fun class, and I have some really bright students that are in it, it was quite wonderful. And I noticed what was really cool at the end of the semester, that I noticed that there was very much a substantial improvement in their understanding of strategy. And I think the really key moment of when that happened, or what was going on, is that they were beginning to understand the strategy of a particular company sort of holistically, of all the different elements that go into understanding exactly what is the strategy of a particular company. It's really not all that clear if you just sort of learn briefly, or you think about the strategy a little bit. There's actually a lot of moving parts, and it's a really difficult thing to sort of put your finger on until you actually start immersing yourself in what's going on. That's a really substantial point that goes on behind the scenes. And it's really cool to see at the end of the semester, when they're starting to put in a lot more effort and they're starting to understand things a lot more clearly, and all the different elements that go on, that they have a very, very sharp understanding of exactly what the strategy, the sort of the weaknesses and strengths of a particular company is, simply by understanding all of these different sort of perspectives and stuff like that occur within the firm and occur within sort of putting it all together. So I thought it would be really interesting to sort of point out what are some particular ways you can improve your particular company and sort of make it fit together a little bit more. I'm not going to get into a lot of all the different elements. I'd recommend for you to take like an MBA class, for example, some business classes, particularly in strategy, where they do put these things holistically together. So you can focus on and understand, different performance metrics, for example, that sort of work and fit together, like turnover in your company, or learning goals, right? Or, all these different elements that we sort of forget, and we typically would just focus on performance, or financial performance, or profitability. So what's really neat is by focusing on, your company and identifying what I would sort of view as a holistic strategy for your company. Now, there's different ways that you can do that. There's this sort of balanced scorecard model, but there's also, just kind of following the advice that I'm going to give. But by simply putting that all together and making sort of a holistic picture of your particular company, you can actually sort of see your company in a different way and make some substantial improvements that you probably wouldn't have thought about along the way. So what is the sort of basic formula that I would suggest that you go about doing this? Well, the first one is just identify what your key performance indices or key performance indicators are. And those could be broad, right? I mean, you probably should have them pretty broad and maybe pick like 5 of them. Obviously, one of them is going to be some form of financial performance, but you might also think about, the culture at your company, right? And maybe think about maybe turnover at your company. Maybe you think about how much your employees are learning, really broadly sort of identify those key performance indices. And then think about how you can establish them, and think about how you can actually measure those particular metrics. It's often really clear with financial performance, but sometimes you have to sort of think about in a much more in-depth and robust way of how you actually might do sort of more subjective things that are beyond financial performance. And that requires some skill and whatnot, but it can be done. Now, once you do that, once you identify those particular key performance indicators, just keep track of them. That's all you have to do, is just keep track of them over time. And I would just focus on them. It might take a little bit of extra work to do that, But what's the cool thing is by having those key performance indicators is that, and I wouldn't do anything with it. That's all I'd want. That's all I would do probably for the first 6 months when you do this. Just track them. That's it, right? If you've been around for 5 years, 10 years, just track those key performance indicators, and that's it. That's the basic of what you want to do. And then once you sort of have a trend and you identify what's going on, then what you can do is at moments when one key performance indicator maybe goes down a little bit more than you would like, and maybe it's down by 10%, right? Or maybe it's down by 5%, whatever that is, you have sort of set triggers or controls that would sort of trigger you to investigate what's going on. Now, there's always going to be random fluctuations. You should identify that. And that's why I don't want you to jump into that right away, because you're not going to pick up what those random fluctuations are for a little bit of time. And often you're going to get seasonality and things that might change over time. Just a lot of different things going on. But what you should do is when you start picking up that you are falling below a particular key performance indicator, just make a slight adjustment by, investigating and asking people what's going on behind the scenes. And then once you identify what's going on, just make that slight correction. Now, if you can constantly are doing that and you have sort of a track record and you're developing a track record, you'll start to realize that it becomes easier over time. The first time you're going to do it, it's going to be really difficult. That you do that, it's going to seem overwhelming. But by simply just tracking and focusing on these key performance indicators, half a dozen of them, for example, and they're just identifying which ones are going up and which ones are going down, and focusing on the ones that are going down in some sort of way, seeing how you can correct those. What will happen is that's going to drive up your performance in the long run, because what you're doing is solving problems and making the company run a little bit better in the long run, right? So it's a really cool and fun way to improve your performance over the long haul. Now you can watch some other videos I talk about that I go into details with how this actually works and stuff like that. But just know that it does really. There's sound research behind it, and it does work. It's actually sort of been proven for a fairly long time now. The research has been out for a long. It's pretty robust at this moment, so it does work in terms of improving your company in the long run. So if you like these videos, make sure you do come back every Saturday. I also put out stuff about innovation on Thursday, and I do put out really interesting things on a daily basis, so you can check up on those as well. Make sure you do leave some comments if you have anything that you'd like to say. So take care, have a wonderful day, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next video. Bye.